storyline going into this game, Buffalo and Kansas City. I'm sure every table-busting Buffalo Bill Mafia guy knows this stat already. For 11 straight playoff games, Kansas City has had less penalties called on them than their opponents.
Whoa, wait a minute, Jim.
Now
read that again and make sure you got that right.
Doesn't mean anything is anything weird going on. But for 11 straight playoff games, Kansas City has had fewer penalties called on them than their opponents.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this one bit.
I've got these numbers.
Do
you have all these numbers?
Like, if you'd given me what number, I don't know that I could have told you 11. But when you tell me 11, it does not surprise me.
I just have that bullet point that it was 11 straight. I didn't get into the weeds on how many more than the Texans. Obviously,
okay, so Warren Sharp is the guy that sent this out.
Okay.
He said, saw a crazy stat yesterday on ESPN that I could not believe. The last 4 years, over the Chiefs' 11 playoff games, 0 games the Chiefs had more penalties. 10 games opponents had more penalties.
So one game they were the same.
In their pursuit of being the first team ever to win 3 straight championships, they've played 11 playoff games since 2021. In those, opponents 0 have had more penalties. In those 11 games, how many times the Chief opponents have had more penalties? 10.
Yep, and one of them, they were the same number.
Out of 68 regular season games during the sample since 2021, 27 games the Chiefs had less penalty yards, 38 games Chiefs actually had more penalty yards.
So they get
in the regular season.
In the regular season.
So it changes considerably in the postseason.
Yeah.
Now, some of that can just be the Chiefs are playing better football. I mean, it doesn't mean something has to be, something stinks, that the refs are protecting them or anything.
I don't believe that. Not in the NFL. I would believe you in college, Jim. But in the NFL, as good as the players are in the NFL, I just don't believe, they're just playing better football. That's just not believable.
Okay, in those 11 games, there have been 7 roughing the passers called on Pat Mahomes. Only 1 has been called on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
0 unsportsmanlike called on the Chiefs. Multiple unsportsmanlike called on the opponents. Our man Alex from Odie's, I don't know if you heard this last night. He came up to me. He was like, I just could not stand Travis Kelce, but now after Pat Mahomes is flopping, like he's so good, why does he flop?
I know.
And that's what infuriates people, but they do get the calls. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
So that's part of the Buffalo backdrop as they go play at Kansas City this weekend. I've got some turnover numbers that is positive for all 4 teams remaining after you finish this.
Yeah, just real quick on the penalties. The one thing I would like to see, because the vast majority of these Kansas City games have been at home, like of those 11, I would guess probably 9 or 10 are at home. What do you think of their last 11 playoff games? I mean, they very rarely play a road playoff game.
I don't think they've played a road playoff game, have they?
But maybe that includes the Super Bowl, whether it's a neutral site. I don't know. But either way, I would like to see the breakdown in the regular season of home team versus road team penalties. It's big in basketball. You know that in basketball,
That's right? You expect it. It's built in.
Yeah, but I just wonder how big it is in the NFL, road team versus home team. So that would be the only other thing I would want to look at there. But now to turnovers.
The turnovers, if you win the turnover battle, the last 23 NFL playoff games, the team that wins the turnover battles is 22-1. 22-1. All 4 of these teams that are still left right now have 0 turnovers in this playoffs. So the Eagles didn't turn it over against the Rams.
Nope, sure didn't.
So all 4 teams that are left, 0 turnovers this postseason.
Yeah, there we go, Redskins.
Yep.
Commanders +5 against Detroit. The Eagles +2. I think the Chiefs and the Texans, neither one turned it over. And the Bills, the Bills didn't turn it over.
Yep. Both in the Washington and Philadelphia game, both those teams are +6 in turnover margin in this playoffs. That's only happened to get to a +6 in the playoffs, only happened 2 other times in the Super Bowl era, and both of these teams have done it. But 1998 Denver and 2004 Patriots, both of those teams went on to the Super Bowl. So the Commanders and Eagles are playing such clean football right now that they're at a historic level, +6 in turnovers, that matches 98 Broncos, 2004 Patriots.
It really is the easiest path to victory, and it's such an easy stat. But if you win the turnover battle in the NFL, you win the game.
Yeah, a lot of times
22-1, the last 23 playoff games, the turnover battle winner has won. The only one was Kansas City, who only had 1 turnover against Buffalo, and they still won the game.
The strange thing is, last weekend the yardage leader lost all 4 games. That is pretty odd.
Yeah, because they lost the turnover battle.
I guess that would be the thing, right? Is the turnover battle is what beat them.
But here's the hope that Kansas City doesn't win this weekend. The Bills played the entire football season with 8 turnovers, 8 regular season turnovers from the Buffalo
It's
Bills.
impossible.
The record's back to 1960 in the NFL. That is the best since 1960, and that's as far back as 1960. They played the year with 8 turnovers.
I would guess, and I could be wrong, that there were probably multiple college football teams that had 8 in a game.
Whew, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot
That
to
is
single
a lot.
game.
But I mean, again, we're talking about a Detroit
Yeah.
Lions team that won 15 games of the regular season. They just had 5 in a playoff game at home.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I will find this. I will fact check it, but I guarantee you that there was at least a team that had 8 turnovers.
So are you saying you think that leads to
The Bills protect the football at a historic rate this year. Josh Allen's not turning it over.
yes. So what you've
So
got,
the Bills, you'll have to break the trend here.
Yeah.
If the Bills, if they don't, they got to turn it over or they've got to break the stats by not turning it over and still losing the game this week.
yeah, it's going to be tough when you've got the officials. It will be all over Kansas City's dick, so to speak, this weekend. And then on the other side, Buffalo not turning the football over. Like, something's got to give. If Buffalo doesn't turn it over, but Kansas City's getting all the calls.
Kansas City doesn't have any penalties and Buffalo has no turnovers, who wins the game?
Right.
Yeah. Fascinating NFL championship weekend coming up, 2 o'clock on Fox for the NFC, 5:30 CBS for the AFC.
I will say, did Baltimore end up with 3 turnovers in that game? Jackson turned it over twice, right? And then,
Yeah, it was
then
3.
Mark
And-
Andrews
and-
fumbled.
Yep.
So -3.
That's 3 turnovers, and Ravens still ball in hand with a chance to send that game to overtime.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams turned it over how many times?
2.
Yeah, and ball in hand
I
driving.
know. I mean, that just it backs up your stat there and what Lance said. It sounds so easy, but if you win the turnover battle in the NFL, most of the time you're winning the game. Too.
What do you think the record for, because I'll get to this, the record for most turnovers by a winning team in a college football game
A
was?
winning team?
Yeah.
I mean, crap, this year.
And they won by 19. It was a Big Ten matchup.
Well, how many is it?
So it was 1943. Purdue beat Illinois. They had 11 turnovers and won 40-21.
Shut up.
40-21 with 11 turnovers. Different game back then.